Hi, I thought it'd be really valuable and cool to walk you through what I learned at this place. So I was very fortunate enough that work sent me to an executive leadership track and course called Implementing Winning Strategies at Columbia Business School. And it was great, although I'm probably the worst student you'll ever meet. I can't sit still, I can't concentrate, I learn by doing. And the reason why I say I'm very fortunate to have been sent there is we learned a lot about how to do things differently within a big company, right? Within a corporate environment. But I think there are a lot of lessons that are applicable to first-time founders or startups as well. So that's why I'm doing this video. So in order to make this valuable, rather than just chuck a bunch of, hey, try these things, I'm going to apply it to the business I started a while ago. So if we go to the customer stakeholder group and how to define that, I'm going to show this slide that I kind of typed up so we can go through it together. The startup I ran was called Two Space, and this was almost 10 years ago, and we turned restaurants that were closed during the day into a network of co-working spaces, right? So it was a very easy to grasp concept, but if I had access to this, I guess, structure that I'm about to go through today, it would have helped us pivot and grow and do all the changes that we needed to do in order to scale appropriately way sooner, right? Because we kind of learned through doing and making mistakes and failing, which is good, but it would have been nice to kind of go through this at the start. So if I identify who are my customers with this business straight up, it's funny, there's actually two customers for us because we're what you call a double-sided marketplace, right? So the first customer is the actual people who use the office space, the restaurants and the hotels that we turn into offices, right? And they're important because, you know, they're the customers that we're charging or initially were charging. And the other customer group for us is the restaurant owners, the hotel owners, right? Because we're the ones actually activating their space, we're giving them a share of the revenue that we make, all that kind of stuff. So for us, as soon as we go through this, identify your customers, when you think about it clearly, there's more than one. It's not just who you're selling to, right? It's who are your key stakeholders or partners to get your product off the ground or even to deliver it, and what's the dynamic with them. And that's really interesting because the second thing that I want you to do when you do this customer group thing is list a bunch of things and issues that you face with each customer. And this is really important, right? Because from a startup perspective, you should always be customer focused and obsessed. And the funny thing is even though this is a corporate training module for executive leaders, it's very similar, right? The things that I've extracted from this is very customer obsessed, right? Listen to your customer so you know how to connect to your customer. So I've listed a couple of issues that I faced for my customers whom were members, so people paying me almost like a gym membership to use the offices, and also the owners, so the restaurateurs that we would partner with to use their space. And you can see maybe there's 4 or 5 for each one. And I think that's important because when you identify the issues, it really opens up your thinking on what are the gaps that we need to fill and what kind of products do we need to create or how do we grow our offering to deal with those. So to just pick a few, you know, one of the key things is how do we connect users to foster community from the customer and the member side. We ended up building a platform and an app to connect them all, right? So we actually started leaning very much into technology, even though when you think about it, we were a bit of a sharing economy space play. Technology was huge for us. And from the owner's side, you know, there's the obvious one, insurance. What happens if someone burns one of their restaurants down? You know, it took 258 door-to-door knocking restaurants for me to finally get one to say yes, because all of them were like, we don't want to be the first. What happens if you put one of your members in our space and they fall over and hurt themselves or they burn the place down? But the one that was interesting here that I'll raise is how do we compensate the owners more than just sharing membership revenue with them, right? Because the concept is cool and people liked it, but at the end of the day, if I'm a very affordable option for these people who want to use the space and I share a percentage of that revenue with the owner, it's not a lot of revenue, right? So we had to figure out a way how to grow that. So for you, do the same thing, identify your customers and identify some issues faced. Okay, now that you've identified your customers, you can draw key insights for them. I think in the course, this was categorized under situation analysis and all that stuff, but I'm just going to call it key insights, customers. And for me in this case study, I'm just going to target the owners for now, right? We're not going to look at the members. So there's 3 key questions I want you to ask yourselves when you're looking for key insights. The first one is, what are the trends in customer expectations right now? And what are useful ways that you can segment your customers? So for example, for me, some trends in customer expectations, I would say in this current market, there's a flight to quality and flight to experience right now. So a lot of these owners of restaurants and hotels are trying to figure out how can they offer more than just food or a table or a bed within a hotel, that kind of scenario. And what are useful ways to segment your customers? Well, in this scenario for me, it's by the type of venue, right? So one's restaurant and one's hotel. And that becomes really important for me when I try and figure out how to evolve our product offering. Because if it's a restaurant and it's closed during the day, I'm responsible for staffing it, right? And there's a cost associated to that and all of these standard operating procedures we have to draw up. If it's a hotel, there's 24/7 staff on site already. And if we're activating dead space within that environment, whether it's a lobby or it's a section of the restaurant not being used, we don't necessarily have to staff it. We could start training their staff on site and educating them because it's a value add offering to their existing hotel offering, right? So that's very interesting for us because the different venue types offer different ways to approach it, which impact our operating costs and therefore potentially the scalability and the profitability of this type of model, right? So this is a very valuable exercise. And the third one is the thing that I probably remembered the most doing this course, and it's called the customer hierarchy of needs, right? And the whole point of this is trying to figure out what do your customers value the most. So here's a diagram of two pyramids and how we can approach it. And I've kind of filled it in based on, again, the case study of Two Space and turning restaurants into co-working spaces. And I'll talk you through the thinking here. But this is a great exercise for you to do with your own business, right? Whether it's a startup, whether you're within a corporate environment, you're responsible for a particular product offering, and you're trying to figure out where growth is for you next year or the year after. Because remember, when you apply strategic thinking to anything, it's not just what can I do today to get impact tomorrow. You should also be thinking, what can I do today that'll allow me to grow or develop or differentiate ourselves in 3 to 4 years time or even 5 years time. So when we go through this customer hierarchy of needs, the whole point of this is to compare what's happened versus what's going to happen and how can you take advantage of that future pyramid, right? So on the left, we've got in the past, restaurant and hotel owners really only focused on the revenue during trading hours, right? Which is a fair statement. And moderately important is like brand awareness or other channels of revenue, or what can we do from a digital marketing perspective. And from a table stakes or a basics perspective, it's about profitability. And I think that's something that startups need to wise up about. It's not about users, it's not about revenue, it's about profit. Don't care what your revenue is. If your costs are inflated and you're not making enough margin, you're not running a good business. Now, from a future needs perspective in the pyramid on the right, we've seen over the years a shift to not just core food and beverage or hotel trade. There's a real need to lean into digital marketing, social media presence, how do we monetize any of this dead space? So if we've identified that there's a shift into this direction, there should be more hotels and restaurants that we can go pitch to, but angle our pitch into less of it's a risk, more it's an opportunity to monetize your space. But B, if digital marketing and brand awareness is super important for them, and the venues really valued the eyeballs in this space, not just people working from it, and if we had a platform or a mobile app that would market their venue to all of the users that we had within that city and their country, there's a huge amount of value there, right? Because they can convert all of those eyeballs into food and beverage trade during the day or during the evening when they're actually operating. So for us, what that meant is we would pivot the model. We would stop charging the users, so the day-to-day users who would actually use the space as an office, and that would be very cheap because we're not paying rent. And we would start charging the venues like a product and a services fee. Give me a couple of grand a month and we'll activate your space, we'll put it on the platform, you get all of this marketing and brand awareness. And that was huge for us because it meant we could actually grow our community a lot faster because we could offer it for free, because we were generating income from the venues that would value the community, which we could grow even faster because we weren't charging the members anymore. And now that you have your insights, you just focus on your key priorities. These are those few things that will make the biggest impact. I'm a very high impact, low volume type of worker. If you look at my inbox, you'll probably throw up because it's got 3,000 unread emails as of yesterday, I think. Because if it's not important or crucial, I don't even open it, right? If it's not associated to a project, a client, or a key strategic move that we're doing this year or next year, it's not important. And if it's important, it'll resurface in my inbox or someone will actually give me a call, right? So this is the opportunity now that you've kind of identified your customers, you've asked yourself what are the key issues. You've then kind of looked into what are the key insights you can draw off it based on the trends with them. You've done your customer hierarchy of needs to identify where was the market and where were they before and where are they now and where can you kind of attack. This is the opportunity now to kind of list your key priorities. What are the things that you really need to focus on? And again, for us, with the two-space scenario, with the epiphany of the value does not lie with sharing revenue with the venues, the value lies with the foot traffic and the eyeballs, the key priority would be to shift the model completely, right? Because then no longer are we relying on someone paying $60 a month to be a member and getting as many of those as possible to grow the income of the business. We're now approaching venues with this amazing value proposition of, look at this great community that we've got, pay us some money for us to activate your space and to increase your core sales. And then because then we can now give it to free for members, and we may vet them through, give us some information. The community is growing more and more, right? That would allow us to really explode in terms of growth, which it did. So that would be a key priority in this case that we would have extracted through that customer needs of hierarchy pyramid for sure, And then when you think about it, if suddenly now, oh gosh, we're going to balloon our community and the core offering there is community, how do we connect them all? Well, a key focus should be the technology, right? Suddenly we've evolved into a technology play. It's no longer about space. And one of the insights we extracted when we were trying to segment our customers thoughtfully was restaurants versus hotels. Well, if we're going to start growing and growing, maybe it'd be smarter to focus on hotels only and less restaurants, right? Unless it's a huge branding exercise where it's an amazing restaurant we have to work with. If that comes with the headache of staffing it and an operating cost that's additional to a hotel, well, in the effort of scaling, we should just focus on hotels. And I think that's why this approach is really important and should not be limited only to corporate executive leadership modules and courses. You should be using it for your own business too. So I hope you find this helpful. And please let me know, because if you enjoy these, I can do more, since I've done some other courses like the McKinsey Young Leaders Program, where I think I could extract similar to this, maybe the 1 or 2, 3 key things that really resonated with me. And again, because I'm the worst student ever, if I remember it, it must be good, right? Because I forget everything else. So, as usual, you've got this. Good luck, and I'll speak to you again soon.